So I'd like to talk to you about self-esteem. Self-esteem is something that I personally have struggled with my entire life. That's probably why I created a whole business around helping kids improve their own self-esteem. And I do work with kids and teens, and very importantly, with parents as well. So what I teach is where that self-esteem comes from, and I want to share that with you now because it took me a very long time to heal my own self-esteem. And if I teach you these concepts and you understand and grasp the situations that have contributed to your self-esteem, be that positive self-esteem or maybe some low self-esteem such as I had, then you're really going to be able to navigate that and just go ahead and break through those barriers, really to help you just love yourself and truly have that self-esteem that you've always craved but maybe never quite got. Okay, so here's the thing. There's a theory that I really believe in because I know personally how it's affected my own life, but it's called the attachment theory. And what it is in psychology, the attachment theory is basically how we attach to our mother or our caregiver, our primary caregiver. Now, we know that mothers, as a mother myself, maybe your mother or father, yourself, but definitely you know that being in the role of a parent isn't always easy because we're only human, right? We're doing the very best that we can, but sometimes that's just really not that great if we admit it, okay? So, in the attachment theory, we see how children relate to their parents, notably their mothers or their primary caregiver. Now, the question is, how was that attachment? Was your mother emotionally available to you? My mother worked 12 hours in a factory and came home completely exhausted, and she really didn't have enough time. I was also born when she was 17 years old. She was just a kid herself. So she didn't have that emotional maturity or the emotional availability that I so desperately needed as a child. Not only that, but I'm an extremely affectionate person, and I crave that physical touch and the hugs and the love and all of that. So what ended up happening was not receiving that, and also not being maybe heard, not being validated enough by my primary caregiver. I grew up and I was constantly struggling with that. I was constantly looking for validation outside of myself. Now, when I came across the concept of validation, I started reading about it, I started studying it, I started using self-validation, which I've already discussed with you in this course. And that helped greatly. And I also started validating other people. And then I realized how many of us, we say we have high self-esteem and we have so much confidence, but the question is do we really? Do we really have it when we're posting selfies on social media and we're showing all of our life just so we can get those likes or whatever it is? And I realize this might be true more with the younger generation than with our older generation, but regardless, it's still the same idea of seeking validation from outside of ourselves because of perhaps an emotionally unavailable primary caretaker. So the idea here is not to place blame because, as we know, we're all human. I'm a mother myself and I make mistakes sometimes. I apologize. I try to be the very best that I can be. I try to be there for my children when they tell me about their day, when they tell me the things that they love. I try to be very emotionally present, but sometimes I have things going on in my mind and in my life and I'm not always able to bring it 100% of the time. So we have to cut our parents some slack. And realize that there's no one to blame. It is what it is. But now the good thing is that you know and that you're aware of these types of issues and how the pattern has perhaps been demonstrated throughout your life. So if you look back at how your family unit was, how your relationship was with your own parents, and you see, were they there for you emotionally? Were they supportive? Were they demanding on you? Did it seem like their love was conditional? So, for example, you had to make good grades in order to be approved of, or you had to get on the sports team to be approved of, or you had to have the same interests, So maybe there was a cutting off of your individuality to where, oh, well, if you're like this, then I accept you. But if you're like that, then I don't. Okay, so these are really, really important, because remember, as a child, all of this goes into our subconscious mind. We end up thinking that something's wrong with us. In reality, there's nothing wrong with us. We're just reacting to a certain situation where we may not have received all of the love and the acceptance that we really, truly, truly needed. And that's a thing now that I look back and I realize, even as a parent, it's just so, so very important. I believe that understanding this and working to heal my own childhood and my own self-esteem has made me a better parent, because I realize at the end of the day, it's not about what my child chooses to do or what they choose not to do, but it is being unconditionally loving and accepting my child no matter what. So now that you've understood that, I would like you to just think back for a moment. Think back and maybe, take your journal out and write down the memories that you have. Did you feel accepted in your household? Did you feel loved unconditionally? Were you like me and thought that for some reason you felt that you had to do certain things to be accepted and to be loved, and if you didn't, if you weren't quiet, if you expressed your opinions too much, or if, like I was often told, you're too deep, I don't understand, you're too deep. So again, it was like the severing of that connection. So that's the issue. I've come to realize that my depth as a person is wonderful and amazing, and I love it, and I'm so grateful for who I am today. But of course, there was a time where, as a child, you don't understand, why am I so different? And then you try to become what your primary caregiver truly wants, or what you think that they want. And that might, when you get older and you start having relationships, that might bleed into that area where you're trying so hard to become what you think the other person wants in order to receive love. So as you think about this, as you journal about this, keep all of these things in mind. Think about your past relationships. How have your choices in relationships been the same? Do you see any pattern there? Do you look for a particular type of person to be in a relationship with? So, for example, if your primary caretaker was unavailable emotionally, do you tend to look for partners who tend to be distant towards you, or that don't have enough time for you? That's your comfort zone. That might be your comfort zone. That was my comfort zone. So even though I so desperately wanted to feel that love and that connection, subconsciously I was looking for partners who were distant from me, who it felt hard to really have a close connection to. So think about that and try to understand where that has undermined your own self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. Because the truth is that you are beautiful and you are wonderfully made, and you have so many precious gifts to share with the world. But it's truly time to start loving yourself, to start accepting yourself for who you are, exactly where you are, how you are, and for all of the wonderful qualities that make up you. Validating ourselves is one of the most precious gifts we can actually offer to ourselves. But unless we understand the primal causes of having self-esteem issues, we're not going to be able to accept ourselves unconditionally and love ourselves unconditionally. I mean, how many Instagram posts do we see about, accept yourself and love yourself? And it seems really easy to do when you say it like that, but it's really, really hard. But it's so very easy, and it becomes a non-issue almost once you understand the subconscious patterning that happened in order to basically make you the way you are. And once you understand that subconscious patterning, it's like it releases, you're able to let it go, and then you're finally able to say, hey, I accept myself exactly as I am. I love my thick thighs and my round tummy and whatever, and I might not be perfect in this, and I might be a procrastinator sometimes, but I can work on that. I can improve that. I can make that better. And whatever it is, just physically, we certainly have some attributes that we might find a little bit less than lovable, but you know what? I say no more. I've said, forget that. I'm loving every single part of me, because guess what? Now is the time in our lives where we get to parent ourselves. We get to do that. And just as much as you love your own child, or just as much as you love someone else or want to give that love to someone else, turn that on yourself and realize, that inner child within you desperately, desperately needs that love, needs that acceptance, that unconditional acceptance that only you can give. So I hope this has been helpful for you. It certainly was helpful for me. I did this healing work and my self-esteem improved greatly, so tremendously. And now I feel like, people who love me are going to love me. People who don't won't, and that's okay. I don't have to be loved by everybody. I don't have to be accepted by everybody. I'm meant for who I'm meant for. So I encourage you in this to do the work, to journal this out, to cry through it if you have to think back on those memories that maybe you've shut out, or as I did, said, oh, my childhood has nothing to do with it, come on. But it did. It had everything to do with it. At least it had to do with the self-esteem issues that I've struggled with my whole life, and that now finally have released and helped me get to this new place of just so much joy and so much acceptance and being okay exactly where I am and with what I'm doing, and then pursuing my dreams and continuing on. So I encourage you in this today, and thank you so much.